I'll give a short introduction just to sort of set the stage for what we're going to be talking about. So when we talk about non-duality, there might be a lot of ideas about that. And where this is coming from, well, actually where everything comes from, it's actually very, very simple. So it won't be encapsulated in any word or idea. Words are useful in a sense in mitigating misunderstandings. But what oneness is or wholeness is can't be captured in a word. And in that because it's not separate. I mean, if you think about it, if there is oneness or wholeness, it has to include everything. And so if it's all-inclusive, if it's everything, how could it be known? From what position would it be known from? Now, wholeness is what's longed for. And this is wholeness, oneness, unconditional love. That's this. That's all there is. And the reason a meeting like this happens is because there's a want or a desire or a sense that what's longed for needs to be known. But as I just said, wholeness can't be known because there isn't anything separate. And that energy of wanting to know is actually an illusory experience that arises that says, I'm real. I'm real and everything is real. And in that experience that I'm real and everything is real, wholeness, not two-ness, unconditional love, seems to be lost. And it only seems to be lost because that sense of separation, that sense of I know, can't know what wholeness is. And that experience of not being able to know what this is engenders a sense of loss, engenders a sense of need, engenders a sense that what's longed for is at the end of a process called becoming. And so the individual, the sense that I am real, is in a process. It'll actually think that what we're talking about here is something that it's going to find and that it will arrive at the end of some sort of process that it's going to have. So in that way, what we're talking about isn't for that experience. It isn't about you. It can be very dissatisfying. If you listen, what's being said is actually nothing. Because what we're pointing to, which can't be pointed to, is what is already. So this is wholeness. This is what's longed for. It's already done. The entire experience that something needs to happen is an illusion. And that illusion makes it feel like this isn't it. But wholeness or completeness is more obvious than the experience of being an individual. It's more real, it's more intimate than the experience of being an individual. But for the individual, it's meaningless, it's pointless, it's valueless. And that's true about this meeting. It's meaningless, pointless, and valueless. I only say that after you pay, of course. Yeah. So although we'll probably discuss this and there'll be some exchanges, it obviously isn't about the words. It's about what can't be known. Unknowing. We can talk about it if you like.
With this knowing what can't be known, how does one go about everyday existence?
So the question comes from the experience that someone has an everyday experience, and there's someone with free will navigating that. And that there isn't there isn't anyone having an everyday experience. So there isn't anyone to navigate it.
And is there free will?
There's choice, but there isn't anyone to choose.
There's choice?
Yeah.
So what choice?
Tea or coffee? There's apparent choices. Choice seems to happen.
Would you say then that anything is real?
Apparently real. So everything is unconditional, wholeness, appearing. That's the body or the floor or anything else.
But beyond the appearances, usually it's talked about as like reality.
Right.
That which is actually appearing as the appearances.
Yeah.
That, would you agree that that is the only thing that is quote unquote real?
This is that.
This is that. Okay. So it's just that there is no personal entity, period.
Yeah.
And everything is just reality.
Well, reality, it isn't, everything that appears is also simultaneously nothing.
So then is reality nothing?
If you want, I wouldn't call it, reality would be something that was real, which implies something solid or knowable, separate. And there is nothing like that.
Okay.
What's the mind and what's consciousness?
The mind and consciousness are both words that sound like things. I think mostly with the mind, people mean their thoughts. That's what they call mind. So I just call them thoughts. And consciousness is being conscious of, which is another form of knowing, which, as far as what we're talking about here, is an illusion. The experience of knowing what this is the dissatisfaction. So the experience of being conscious of this is the dissatisfaction. The dissatisfaction of being a person.
The feeling of being a person seems closely related to sort of physical tension.
Yeah.
I feel I've had a decreasing of that physical tension over time, and because of that, there's the assumption that once it's gone completely, something will change or be different, or the sense of being a self will be gone.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just trying to reconcile that with it being complete.
Oh, the individual and separation is wholeness or nothing being that. So there isn't any intrinsic need for this to be anything other than it is. The entire appearance or sense that something needs to happen is part of the illusion. It makes no difference if there's this sense of separation or not. So this meeting isn't about the end of separation. It's not trying to get anywhere. Nothing actually is already.
Yeah, and the experience of knowing happens, right? That experience of knowing happens, and it will continue to happen. And like, are you saying like when we have the experience of knowing, it's automatically dissatisfaction? It's automatically a sense that we're separate?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the form of knowing I'm talking about is the knowing I am. The experience of it, which wouldn't be obvious to that experience, is that everything is solid and real, separate. And that experience is dissatisfying. It limits, it's a reality that's limited. It's limited to everything about me. And part of that is that the appearance is not complete, that it has a need, and that need is fulfilled, or the idea is, the experience, through meaning and purpose and intention. And that's the experience of becoming.
That's what we try to do to satisfy the dissatisfaction.
Absolutely. And what it does, all it can do is look for objects. So it feels like the right knowing or the right experience is where what's longed for is hidden.
And can the experience of knowing ever be not dissatisfaction? Like,
No, not in the way we're talking about it. That's different. Knowing how to bake a cake is different.
okay, but this
The knowing I am.
the knowing, or the knowingness, the knowing I am, you're saying is the knowing I am is kind of I am a separate person.
It's the same thing, yeah.
If it's a knowing of I'm not a separate person.
Well, no one knows that.
No one knows that's a person. No, really. So any knowing, it's so interesting, right? So like, we're built to have thoughts, and we're built to have intuition, and we're built to have a sense of knowingness about reality. And all
Well,
that.
thoughts happen and intuition happens,
Right.
but the knowing is, in some ways you could say it's artificial. It's an artificial imposition on the newness that this is, that it's not new, that it's known.
So the knowing you're saying is more artificial than the thoughts.
Yeah, oh, totally. Thoughts have nothing to do with this. The experience of separation, being separate, being a me, can have effect on thoughts. So it gives energy to them and creates these sort of circles. And it does the same with emotions, because everything has a value to it. It undifferentiatedly picks up everything looking for something for itself. It thinks that what's longed for is hidden. And so it undifferentiated, and it does that with thoughts and feelings too. Has a story of what this is, and that story of what this is interacts with those thoughts and feelings. That's a good thought, a bad thought, all that. Good and bad and right and wrong are all in that. Whereas really, this has absolutely no value whatsoever. It is just simply free. And that includes, hey Gunnar, and that includes the sense of separation, of course.
Which is such a relief on that.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to chase after something. We don't have
Well, it's not about that. It's that there isn't anyone to choose.
to. Right. But that sense that we do have a choice is also something that seems kind of built in. Right?
Yeah, oh. Well, the experience of being an individual is for the individual undeniable. What I used to do when I heard this the first time is I would come up, I would make sense of it. I would change the words or the ideas behind it because it was obvious that couldn't be what he was saying. That there isn't anyone, that's ridiculous. He must mean this. Something that made sense, like consciousness or something.
And do you find you can make sense of it?
No, it never does make sense. It never does make sense. No. That whole need of the only thing that has value is what makes sense to me, that ends. Yeah.
But Jim, that making sense out of things, is that kind of how the individual is made of?
No, the individual is made of an energetic contraction in the body.
But it's like making sense of things plays out in which.
It's not about really what happens. It's that it happens to me is the dissatisfaction. That there's someone that knows, the experiencer of what's happening. That's the only dissatisfaction. In that way, bad food can be dissatisfying as well, even if there isn't a me.
When I talk about meaning, I mean, of course, like.
Well, there just isn't any.
There's
It's only in the dream of separation does this have meaning.
But if let's say you're looking for meaning on the job you do, apparently.
Yeah, no, all of that simply has to do with the dream of me. Because once you own something, it needs to have meaning. Once you have a job, it needs to have meaning. If there's just jobbing, there's just jobbing. There's just nothing jobbing.
You have to own it first.
This has nothing to do about ownership.
Right. Okay.
The sense of ownership is just part of the dream of me, that it has things. That this is substantial enough to grasp, whereas it isn't. The entirety of this is insubstantial. The experience of the me is that it's real, separate, known, substantial.
The same as in, let's say, a parenting life, you are in a crossroads and having to choose A or B.
No one chooses.
Even though there's consequential going this way.
Well, consequences are just part of the appearance. There's sort of this is insubstantial. It isn't real in the way that the me experiences it. And part of the realness that it has, everything that seems to happen has value. It lives in a world of cause and effect, right and wrong, good and bad, and it feels like it needs to navigate that. But there isn't anything other than what appears. So this is everything. There isn't actually a life to be lived or a crossroads to be had or anything else. That's just the me trying to control its experience of this.
The suffering comes from the me trying to make sense of it.
Well, suffering is seeking.
So in a way, seeking meaning can mean suffering.
It's the same thing. Seeking is suffering.
It's not really a question, but maybe it'll lead into one. It was more of an experience. But while watching, I believe it was yours or Tony's, which I just found out a couple months ago, there was some realization, a deep realization that occurred. There's been a long path that's been going on. And I went and looked out the window, and there was a sharp contraction in my chest area, and rush of major fear coming over my body.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, there was this random thought that came in, like, I know something I shouldn't know. Like, all of a sudden, There was like FBI or something. It was like some random weird thought.
Totally.
And then I really felt like, and this has happened in the past in different instances, and it took about 5 or so minutes. Who knows how long it was
Yeah.
to kind of wash over.
Yeah.
And again, it was just it was just obviously it was just a reaction to whatever happened.
Totally.
But it kind of correlates with the contraction you speak of, and
Yeah.
Tony speaks about it as
Yeah.
well. It was like I was going to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
And then it went away.
Yeah.
Just so evident.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how to say it.
How did you start talking about this out of curiosity? Like, what was the...
A friend of mine encouraged me to.
So you were just in like private conversations, just naturally...
Yeah.
Were there points where you feared for your sanity?
Yeah. The me does fear for its sanity because, like we've said, it doesn't make sense. And for it, making sense is the only thing that has value.
And in terms of relationships, when things aren't the same, yeah, like, I don't know, it just seems like the conventions are set up to, you can think about Dr. Bronner's and his like all one, and he literally escaped from an asylum to like make Dr. Bronner's soap. It doesn't feel like this is a world that's really set up. Like this isn't necessarily a way to win the game.
Yeah. Well, there isn't a game and there isn't a world, and it already is so. So it makes no difference. In a relationship, it's a little bit different than that, because a relationship, if there is someone and then suddenly there isn't, there'll be a lot of structure built around compromise, of trying to get something for yourself out of it, which the other will be feeding on in a way. That's what me's do, they feed. And when that sort of relaxes or minimizes, there won't be that need anymore, and there also won't be the willingness. And that can be disruptive.
What do you mean when you say there won't be the willingness?
There's no need to compromise. There isn't any reason to play the game.
There's a fear
What's that?
operating.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Compromise what?
The me is looking for something, and in relationships, often it sees in the other what it feels like is going to make it complete it. And so it's willing to compromise and make deals to try to find what it feels like it is in the other. And the first, forgive me for the word, the first mistake it makes is it thinks that knowing is going to be the solution. And so when it finds a partner, it tries to know everything about them. Whereas what's truly loved, which is, it might be evident here as well, is what can't be known. And so it kind of ruins it by trying to know everything in its partner. Whereas really what's love? Love is what can't be known.
It's like misplaced in a way.
Well, it's not really misplaced as far as the individual having a choice to do anything about it, because the individual, that sense of separation, is actually just a function. So every individual seeks. Every individual sees this as real and separate. Every individual feels like it has meaning and purpose. Every individual thinks there's something missing and something to find. So there must be a path, and it must be about me, and it must be about my free will and choice. Those are just part of the sense of separation.
So a statement that's made that refers to a past, like I love you, or between a couple who've been together for a long time, that statement is in fact without context or time.
Oh, everything is without context and time. Even the appearance of context and time. Yeah.
that being said, there still seems to be patterns of experience that seem to precede certain other experiences, almost like a predictable. You can predict I can predict that the bathroom will be there if I have the experience of.
Yeah.
And time is just, then space are just our framework for making sense of that.
Yeah, and all of that is simply an appearance of nothing. So it's not really evidence of a continuum and previous and follow-up experiences. It's just nothing appearing as that. For the individual, it feels solid and real, like it's really there, like it can really plan. That's a dream.
But even after that dream falls away, isn't there still?
No, there isn't even this for there to be still. Not really, only apparently.
But so what is it that would make you walk to over there if you
The toilet?
Yeah. But why wouldn't there be some assumption?
Yeah. That the toilet is still there? Yeah.
So doesn't that require a me here and the toilet there in order to make that assumption?
Well, I mean, yeah, apparently there is a body here and there is a toilet there. But it's nothing appearing as that.
But that to me sounds like a bit of instead of saying there's no self or object, it's like saying there still is the appearance of it.
Totally.
Okay, so now.
But for no one.
Yeah. So the experience of an apparent self still happens.
No.
No.
It's a funny thing, the self, because part of the end of that dream, which doesn't actually happen, is that there never is that dream. So from here, there isn't actually a here, there are no people in this room. It's obviously just nothing bodying. There are claims of being a person, but this just sees that as what it is, a claim of being a person. It doesn't change that this is just nothing appearing as a room and bodies. So the me waiting for the end of me can't ever happen because there already isn't anyone not to be there. So this isn't having an experience different than that, of being no one. There just isn't an experiencer.
When he said waiting for the dream to fall away, that is still waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what you're talking about never really happens.
No.
Because nothing.
No. There isn't anyone to fall away. There isn't anyone in this room.
It's like the solution to feeling that you're separate isn't then getting to know that you're not separate.
Well, you can't know you're not separate. This doesn't know it's not separate. It's not replaced. It's not a new experience which satisfies the need for something to happen.
There's always just
For the individual, it would be the most dissatisfying answer of all, if it ever heard it.
because it feels like what you're saying sometimes, or at least how the mind can interpret it, is, oh, this will make it so that my life is now more bearable, or like, even if my
It totally misunderstands this as something that sounds good, completely ignoring the fact it can't possibly want it.
Right.
It avoids it at every turn, but it will mishear it and say that it sounds good or it's what it wants.
Yeah.
Because if you listen, I think I said this at the beginning, all we're talking about is what is already, which is nothing for the individual. There already isn't anyone here. It is already unconditional love. It just has no value to the individual, which is looking for a thing.
So there is something appearing. It's,
Apparent, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just not individual. It's
Yeah.
just not separate.
Yeah, well, there's apparent separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you, just because so what is there then to say that like what is appearing is the celebration of the one thing that is not an individual separate thing?
Yeah, I think that's confusing.
Okay. Okay.
There isn't a one thing out of which all of this arises. There's no source.
Okay. Okay.
There's nothing separate to be a source of everything.
Okay.
That'd be two things.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you making the leap from nothing to unconditional love?
Oh, it's the same thing. There's no leap.
I'm trying to, what you just said about if there's source, and everything.
No, there's no source.
No, I know, and I'm just trying to understand that. Why would it mean that there's two things? If it's like all is all, that's source, and everything appearing is source appearing in different.
Well, there'd be the source in what appears.
Source manifesting in different.
Right,
ways?
right.
That makes two things.
That's two things, yeah.
Even though one is just illusory manifestation.
Well, the manifestation, what you're calling, I think you're calling the appearance a manifestation. It's not illusory. The only illusion is that it's happening to me. And so it comes up with a source.
I mean, do you think that's the reason that?
Oh, totally. It's something I could focus on, like consciousness. It's something I can find. So it's an idea I can relate to.
And if there's no source,
No.
we have no idea what's going on.
Well, what's going on is nothing appearing. And no one can know that. But knowing how to drive a car and where the hotel is and all those things, those...
But yeah, I mean, the real of what's going on.
The real?
No, the real of what's going on, we can't know.
Well, there isn't a real of what's going on. There's nothing really out there. And there's nothing really in there. There isn't a real. There isn't an out there and an in there. Not really, only apparently.
Yeah, it's such a, I mean, I'm just connecting with the desire that I've always had to understand this.
Yeah, it's like your life depends upon it. I know.
It creates some sort of safety, right? Like, yeah.
Safety, yeah, totally. Well, like he said, it's terrifying.
I'm fine.
And funny, yeah.
So is all of this born out of intentions other than like nothingness or like knowing?
No, the idea that the dream is that everything is born out of intention and knowing. There isn't actually anything really happening. It's all already at equilibrium. It's a level playing field. Nothing needs to happen. There is nothing wrong with the world or the appearance or anything else. It's all perfect, but not because of anything. We're not on a weekend. Apparently. Unawakened. There's a dream of separation, but that's freedom appearing as a dream of separation. So this isn't implying that that is already enlightened. That's not the implication. The implication is all there is is enlightenment, and enlightenment can appear as a dream of separation, which makes this seem unenlightened. But that's just enlightenment appearing as being unenlightened.
What about like a navigating system within this in terms of like morality?
Oh, there is no morality. There's no right or wrong or good and bad. Right and wrong and good and bad come from the experience of the individual, that there's a sense of lack in the appearance, meaning and purpose. And so it has a story about what this is about. Right and wrong for every it's a very individual thing, and it all pertains to what it thinks its story is about, what the end goal is, whether it's thought about it or not. It has an idea about what this is, and so it'll have a right and wrong, which all pertain to it reaching that. But this isn't going anywhere. So there's no need for morality or right or wrong or navigation.
But there is maybe, in a way, like a sense of, like an embedded sense of morality that, just, I don't know, blocks you from doing something, I don't know, that's going to be really hurtful for someone.
The individual is part of the individual, part of the sense of separation. Not only is it energetically in the body, but it's also belief. And part of belief is doubt. And it's a whole structure of belief and doubt, like in morality or anything else that goes on. And it does have an apparent effect on what the body does. And all of that is just nothing appearing as that, or enlightenment appearing as that. It has, in that sense, it has no value. It's just a dream that there's an individual in that body having an experience that has value, that's going somewhere, that means something. There isn't anyone in there, and it's not going anywhere.
There is none.
No.
In the absence of the belief or the dream of separation, there still is something real.
No, it's a physically held belief. I don't want to just get it all mental and having to do with thoughts, because it isn't just, it's in the body, it sits in the body.
But in the absence of that, in the absence of individual personal experiencing,
There's just nothing happening.
there's just nothing happening. But
That's
that
it.
nothing.
No, it's just nothing happening.
Okay.
That's what this is.
And when you equated nothing with unconditional love,
Yeah.
Wouldn't unconditional love have certain, like I know you're saying there's no morality, but unconditional love would behave in certain ways.
Oh, there is only unconditional love, and it obviously behaves in all the ways that are apparently being behaved. It's all unconditional love. Unconditional is the part the me doesn't like very much.
Unconditional love?
Is the part the me doesn't like very much. It likes to have the morality of the good and bad. It doesn't like the unconditional part. It's scary.
And what does the love part mean then? The unconditional is clear, like, because...
Well, there isn't an unconditional and a love. It's the same thing.
That's what love is. Love is the unconditional.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, by nothing, you mean not a thing.
Yeah.
So happening is this, but nothing happening is
This.
this. Okay. So when I listen to you, sometimes I just notice that word nothing, it kind of gets sort of reified and stale or something.
Yeah.
And so it's saying like, not a thing is happening, but happening is happening, life is lifing, and that's what this has always been.
Well, yeah, that's all there is.
Right.
So things happening are only when I appears.
Oh, that's when it seems like it's really happening. It's not. That's why there isn't a me to fall away. It's the dream that something's really happening, but there already isn't. This is already nothing, insubstantial, ungraspableness appearing.
Real meaning like this exists as something.
The real is separate, solid, known.
So nothing really means it can't be known.
Yeah.
In a way, unconditional is not a thing. It equates with not a thing.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Would you agree that the current society, if you want to call it that, reinforces the sense that there's an individual more than like an indigenous society where you're living out in nature, you're surviving with a sword?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
the schooling system, like making a profile.
More than anything else, it's the sense that they're meeting other individuals that confirm, that also have the experience of being an individual. More than anything else, that's what seems to confirm the sense of separation.
It seems like time too is very reinforced in this.
Time doesn't reinforce it. It's the sense that there's someone else. Time doesn't reinforce it because there isn't any. There isn't anyone else either. But when there arises an individual, it doesn't. We talk about it as though it arises in the body, and it doesn't really. It arises in everything else. And part of that dream of separation is that there's an individual in every body. And when that other individual speaks to this individual, there's a mutual confirmation of the reality of individuality.
Like if everyone spoke like you, then there's no reinforcement of.
No, there's no reinforcement. It doesn't even see an individual. It's not talking to anyone.
So even if we had like a normal conversation about life, my
Yeah.
career, your career,
Yeah.
it still wouldn't reinforce that
No.
sense of self.
Mm-mm.
Do you think that's helpful in overcoming?
Well, overcoming, I wouldn't say that, because it isn't a gain. It's not a process, really. It's only in the dream that there's a process, because this isn't a process. Nothing isn't in a process, but it can appear as a process. So it's not really going anywhere or really happening. It's just
So Jim, you don't feel that things are happening and time is flowing?
well, there isn't anyone here that feels anything, but there are all sorts of feelings and thoughts. But to answer that, really, this would have to know what it's like to be this. And it doesn't.
This would have to know what it's like.
This would have to be able to refer to what it's like to be no one. And there isn't anyone to know what it's like to be no one.
And to my question a second ago about how it wouldn't translate to a normal conversation, even though that conversation might appear normal
Yeah.
in society, is it just an energetic thing?
Yeah, well, this whole meeting is just energetic. Because it's not about words. It's not about ideas or concepts.
So the whole idea of nothing could also, it's akin to like non-conceptuality.
No, that's just not knowing. That's just like a state of not knowing. Now I'm not going to know. It is that words are nothing in the same way that concepts are nothing, in the way that everything else is nothing happening.
So I have trouble with unconditional love because it seems to me, I mean, we find the word love.
But you would always have trouble with unconditional love. The individual would always have trouble with it.
Well, okay, you say there's unconditional love.
Well, I say, what I'm saying is all there is unconditional love.
Okay. But love is something that is generally thought of as a positive thing.
Oh, for the me, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well then what is it?
Neutral.
What
It's
it
neutral.
means if there's difference?
Yeah, I can't tell you.
So why do you say love?
Because that's what it is. But I do say unconditional love, not just love.
So is there a level of intention and focus in your path where like maybe things come like thoughts and it's identified that those are distracting?
Oh, not at all. No. There isn't anyone here to be distracted or not distracted. There's just what happens. The individual, in the sense of being separate and real and on a path, tries to parse its way to what it thinks it's looking for. And the suggestion from here is what's longed for, not what's looked for, is already everything. We just had that conversation. Enlightenment is already everything. Even the dream that something needs to happen, something needs to be found. And so the idea that thoughts are the problem or feelings are the problem comes from the experience that there's an individual having thoughts and feelings. And it's trying to get through the weeds of whatever, thinking or even feeling that what's longed for is hidden. It's hidden behind something. And if it acts right or is right, has the right morals or whatever, that it'll find it. And it just isn't hidden, not really. The illusion hides it because the illusion lives in a sense that what's longed for or what's wanted is an object. Completely disregarding that which can't be objectified.
So when an individual is objectifying that sense of nothing, that's the moment that could potentially be missing out of the nothingness of what is.
No.
No, because that search.
There isn't a moment of nothingness that could be missed. This is nothing happening. What you're talking about, as far as the possibility of recognition or whatever, is already this. It doesn't happen to an individual in time.
But when you say sometimes it's hidden by the searching, by the seeking.
Totally.
But
But full stop. As long as there's a seeker, it's apparently hidden. There is no path from seeking to wholeness, because seeking is wholeness, appearing as seeking. The whole dream, that being on a path, is just part of that separate reality, which never really happens. Be it going somewhere, having the sense that it's headed somewhere. That what's longed for is somewhere else.
And one cannot also stop that objectification of.
There isn't any. If it's already wholeness, what is there to stop? The need to stop it is part of the dream that there's an actual separation, an actual individual.
So how does one get angry or sad if there is no story of me?
Oh, well, there's just things that are sad.
Do we need like a story of me and other?
No, well, not here anyway. There's sadness. Coke commercial, this cries.
Like anger.
What's that?
Anger.
Anger, yeah. Woof. Yeah, that happens.
Doesn't that mean also like me and other, like to be angry?
No, obviously not. Mm-mm.
When you say obviously,
Yeah,
that's another word.
yeah.
So why is that obvious? Like, why would you say obviously just then?
Yeah, there's no reflection. That's the best I can do.
Evidently.
Evident, yeah. Evident is a little bit more action. Obvious doesn't have any action in it. What's being shared here is actually not, it's avoiding misunderstanding. Because it can't tell you what we're talking about. So it just responds as an avoidance of misunderstanding. And obvious is the best this can do to say that this is it and no one knows that.
Kind of the cleanest.
The cleanest, that's a good word, yeah, the cleanest.
I feel like trying out a few metaphors that I...
They always fall apart, but go for it.
Yeah, so you're gonna...
Yeah.
Gonna, like bust them apart.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
So this one I see obvious problems with, but just the experience of turning off the television,
Yeah,
like that simple, but that's actually a transitional experiential thing. So,
yeah.
okay,
But it's more turning off the transistor.
transistor.
If you think of that as the knower of the TV.
Okay. I guess I don't have a lot of experience with transistors.
Me either. But turning off the TV still leaves someone looking at a blank TV.
Yeah, right. It's like the dream.
Yeah.
Like then there's a dreamer there.
Yeah, right.
Okay, and then another one, writing in water.
Yeah, that's all there is writing in water.
Yeah. Writing in water or contact.
Contact?
Which that one, obviously you could get a little confusing with the contact thing, but just writing in water, in a sense, it's just like made from contact.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
It's sort of.
But only apparent contact because it has no real effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there is like a little tail on writing in water, but.
Yeah.
And that's not like personally mine, I think.
But that's what happens with these things is
Yeah.
there's a parsing into the, oh, where is it in there? Oh, there's a little tail. Oh, it's contact. Oh, it's this and that. And it's all focused on trying to find a something.
It's like a micro world.
Well, it just can't help but look for something. That separate sense can't help but look, because that's all that has value. The entire time missing that what's longed for is all there is. It's what's speaking and hearing and chairing and flooring.
So on that note, I notice a decreased need or inclination to even try to understand everything you're saying.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of questions and answers, and some percentage of the time I'm just sitting and not making any attempt to understand it, and then that something revs up. I guess it's that need to know or whatever that says no, you should be paying attention. There's something to know here or something.
Yeah, the me is always trying to get it right.
Yeah, but there's no right or wrong here.
There's no right or wrong at all.
Right. It's not like when I'm...
It doesn't make any difference. It's already done. There already isn't anyone. Everything is whole and complete, which isn't good or bad or right or wrong. It isn't okay or not okay. It just is what it is, without meaning, purpose, or intention.
I guess there may be some shame or something attached to...
It doesn't matter what appears. I mean, that's wholeness or nothing appearing as shame. The me feels shame because it has this sense of responsibility, right and wrong, and what it should or shouldn't do. It's all part of a dream.
Would you say shame's a pretty integral part of
Well, I think in some individuals it's more important than others.
I feel like there's this sort of like quickly beating myself up for like, oh, you did it again. You're like, you know.
Yeah, all with the idea that there's a right and a wrong way to be.
Right.
I mean, it does that. It's just part of the function of separation, the sense that if it's good enough, it will find fulfillment. It'll never be good enough.
Does this has to do with apparently feeling of being undeserving comes from
All sorts of feelings. Yeah.
like this undeserving sense of
Yeah, it comes up with all sorts of stories about what this is.
what is like undeserving sense could be in terms
It's just the sense of being undeserving. It'll come up with anything. It'll make sense out of it, and it'll come up with a story of how to overcome it, or why it can't, or why it should, or anything.
it's like more like a strategy.
Yeah, it'll do anything. You know, in that objectified reality that it lives in, on a path. So there are simply emotions. If there's an individual, they're my emotions. And that sense that I have emotions is kind of an imperative to do something with them. They become then part of my story. So I manage thoughts and emotions. The individual runs around with a tool belt, and it's constantly tinkering with all of the thoughts and feelings, trying to get it right, trying to make its way.
So okay, so in a way like this undeserving is more like a
It's just a feeling.
Making sense of
It's just a feeling. It's undeserving is just a feeling.
That's it.
That's it.
But it's also like a bait.
A fate.
A bait.
A bait. For the individual, everything's bait. Everything is an object. I think I said that. It picks up everything. Undifferentiated, looking for something. Enough. Has a sense of lack, and it just wants to collect and collect and collect. And it generally wants a better experience, but it's also happy to be unhappy, as long as it's still there knowing it is.
So, in a way, when you say the story about overcoming, like a feeling or so, like all these, I don't know, like tactics of trying to overcome some feeling are also going in a circle.
Oh, it's just a circle.
But that is also this.
Oh, of course. It's also unconditional love. It's unconditional.
That's why it can also be this.
Anything.
It's like it's too inclusive.
No, it's too inclusive. Can't get a bearing.
Is part of, because you say like it's all there is in unconditional love. Is that partly because it just couldn't be any different than what it, like wherever you go, there you are, right? Like
well, in
walk
a
out this room, that's what it is.
yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. There's just what appears.
Have you seen? I saw this picture the other day of this telescope that they launched like 2 years ago. It was like $10 billion to build this thing. They've sent it into deep space, and like in a grain of sand in the sky, when you zoom in, you see like hundreds of galaxies.
Yeah.
Does that to you, like the scale of things, is that like a reflection?
No, that's so limited compared to what we're talking about.
Does it blow your mind to think about that?
It doesn't blow my mind, but there's a real interest in it. I love the fact that I'm going to get the numbers wrong, that they thought the universe was 12 billion. Now they think it might be 24, or that might be double or something, because they can't find the edge of space, or the edge of space has more product in it than it should if it was that far back in time or whatever. I think that's That's really interesting.
Jim, there's this sense that sometimes there's an illusion of me and sometimes there isn't.
Yeah, it's probably true.
That's the illusion of me.
No. Sometimes it just isn't there.
But not in like a real time.
No. Well, there isn't a real time.
Jim, without the me, the appearance becomes free, more free.
No, it already is free. Yeah. That's freedom, not feeling like a me. Or feeling like a me.
I mean, the solution to feeling like it's not free is death, right? Or deep sleep, or...
In a sense.
Because if you're dead, then who's there to feel like it's not free?
Yeah.
But then who's there to also know that it's everything? So it's like, the me isn't like the idea of being dead, because then it can't know that it's everything.
Yeah. I mean, death is a funny thing. I mean, it's just a concept, really.
It's just a what?
A concept. Dead bodies are real, or apparent, but the experience of the idea that I am going to die doesn't actually make sense. If you follow it to the end, because for that to be true, you'd have to know you were dead. And if you knew you were dead, well, and if you didn't know you were dead, well. So it's just the sense that it has this and that it's going to lose this, its experience.
I think that reification of death has some sort of state that we can experience is kind of like...
I don't know what you're talking about.
The idea that people believing in death, of like, there's going to be an end to my life.
Yeah.
And as you've mentioned, like the illogical, it's an illogical like concept that doesn't actually make any sense.
Yeah, yeah. So it seems to, though, because it sees other bodies die.
Yeah. But
and
I
so
wonder if
extrapolate.
that sort of like delusional concept is kind of like the core of seeking, of like avoidance. And
no, the core of seeking is actually simply the appearance of separation, the sense of being an individual, the sense of separation. That's seeking. It's with that sense of separation that the whole concept or idea of death comes, the whole concept or idea of meaning and purpose and intention, the whole concept, the experience of that comes with separation, the dream, the illusion. It's simple. What we're talking about is like, it's so simple, it can't get it. But that's it. In the same way that this is, and that is. It's already.
So you don't know what we're talking about.
There isn't any, it can't be known because it's not separate.
Is awareness the process of seeking?
Yeah.
So, what you're referring to, or So beyond awareness is
Dualistic. Yeah.
can there be lack of or transcendence of awareness in
Awareness can end.
in this?
Well, it actually already isn't happening. It's a dream. It just appears in this awareness, the dream of awareness, looking for something. It doesn't really end because it's just a dream. It's a dream from which no one wakes up.
And it's constantly changing.
Apparently, everything, all there is what appears, and what appears can be anything.
Would there be a state where it's not changing?
There's just what appears. It's nothing appearing. There's just what is, which isn't. It is and isn't.
But without a sensory apparatus like a body,
Yeah,
then
that's
all there-
just what is.
then all there is actually nothing at that point.
All there is what is.
So what would there be without any?
What is. Just whatever is what is.
Like that to me, that's nothing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think most people have that idea of nothing, big blackness.
Jim, you were saying like society, like it's common to other individuals confirm your sense of being someone else. Then, like I have two dogs, like pets, sometimes.
Yeah, they don't confirm it.
They don't confirm it.
They don't, because there's no one there. Yeah.
That's why I think
Oh God, let me be the person my dog thinks I am.
So then this apparent dynamic when you come to, parent meetings, for example, I was with Tony last year, and then it was this huge opening. Then, in a way, like seemed like afterwards it dimmed down, and the desperation of and the looking for meaning increased like dramatically. I think it's just when I ask you these, like, you observe this to be.
Yeah. 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 It comes back with a vengeance, and it wants to hold on, wants to know.
Like
It does all sorts of things, but it doesn't matter. I know the process to the individual seems to have value. That, oh, that happened, and now I'll look for that again and another thing, and I notice that this is keeping it from it, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. That's just what is. It's just nothing appearing.
So it could, but it also couldn't not come stronger. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. No.
It's just
But it does seem that when people report that when there's been an opening, that there's generally more openness there.
I mean, during the opening.
Well, even afterwards. So the me won't have the same, although it feels more intense, it won't have the same reality to it as it did before that.
Yeah. And then somehow he managed to come up with this strong plan and just terrify you more.
Oh, totally. Totally. The last thing it wants is to die.
But could it be, in a counterintuitive way, be reinforced because there was an opening, now it's like becoming more apparent, this sense of need?
Oh, right. I know what you mean. No.
No.
No, it just becomes more obvious.
And then the me somehow becomes more desperate.
Desperate, yeah.
What about, oh sorry.
No, not kidding.
What about tension patterns in this body?
Yeah.
Just, yeah, there's a headache right here, right now. And just curious about what that's like over there.
A headache?
Yeah.
It's like a headache.
So that's similar with like anger,
Yeah.
sadness, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
like whatever the patterns of that body are.
I'll have to say it is obvious that it doesn't happen to anyone.
Yeah. So it's kind of free floating.
Well, that's all there is free floating. Even the experience of separation is free floating.
It's what?
Free floating. Woo!
Jim, that experience of separation, and we've been saying it's tied to a body, with the feeling of being in a body, but when I look closely at that, there's the
Ugh.
tension, which is what?
You're not going to get there.
Get where?
Wherever you're going. The me is convinced it's about its efforts, that it's in its realm of action, that it's going to, through its volition and free will, it's going to have an effect, which will bring about what's longed for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like I can.
But there already isn't a you. Now what?
Is there something of value that could be missed?
No. There isn't any value. It's so, value is sort of I can't think of the word, replacement for the absolute fullness that this is already. This is so fully what it is that there's no need for it to be anything else or to become or to have meaning or purpose or anything. Those are so thin compared to the fullness that this is, the unconditionality of it.
Jim,
Yeah.
did you speak to, I don't know, maybe this, I heard it through, I believe Tony made one of his books or whatever. It was something experience that I thought that I was having at one point was more of, talk about the awakening in the male being more of nothing, the ability, I don't know if that impersonal, what word he used, but for the feminine being more everything, just due to traditional emotions or whatever. And that merging of the two, of that impersonality in the man into the feminine, whether that be within yourself or with another, sometime opening in terms of, I don't know, it was very interesting, and it kind of resonated with something.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can speak to anything like in those terms.
I mean, that sounds like, well, I talked about wanting to know the other, and in man and woman, it's actually that impersonal for the woman and the man, and that everythingness, I would call it more love, in the woman, which is unknowable, which is the persons in the man and the person and the woman's death. Those things are death to it. And that's what really the love is about. Yeah. We don't want to know them, really. We just want to love them.
Yeah.
Can you say that again? I just went right over my head.
Oh, I don't think so. Buy the book. No, it's
The impersonality.
yeah, impersonal and the love. Yeah. Oh, just that. Speaking of man and woman, because there isn't actually one. Those are just part of the appearance, man and woman. But as the appearance of man and woman, they're in some fundamental way unknowable for each other. The person wants to know it and get to know everything about it in the sense that the other has something for it that it could make it whole, which isn't true. But beyond that, there's a love of the, as he said, the impersonal male and the unconditional love female, and that is actually the death of each other. And that's that love.
Yeah, I guess I get lost at the death of each other part.
Yeah. The death of personal love, the death of wanting to get something.
So
It's the last thing woman can feel, sorry about that, but anyway, can feel that incredibly threatened by impersonality, the impersonal. Whereas man, sorry about it, but we're talking about it, is more threatened by love, unconditional love.
So how does the death happen?
Well, it's just a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The coming together that creates the death.
Yeah. Well, the end of the dream of separation.
And also, maybe the way I relate to it is that there stops being the association with it. Like, I'm a woman. It becomes more open, possibly, to, like, all the whole thing, which is kind of like a death of that identity.
And death of the identity of the other.
Yeah, but this is probably going all cerebral.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to take you to that and take us off the rails.
Is the term self-realization incredibly misleading?
Yeah. I think most of this is misleading. Liberation, self-realization, enlightenment. It's all kind of misleading in a sense that the individual would hear it as a thing that happens to them. It's simpler. It's simpler than enlightenment.
Because the body and the individual is also an arising.
Yeah.
In the empty space of what is.
Well, there isn't an empty space of what is, but there's just what appears. And there's a body and just so that we're clear, it's not, the body isn't coming from nothing. There's not a source of nothing that becomes this. This is timeless, appearing as time.
Just arising.
Just, that's it. Arising is a little much. It's just this. The timeless being this.
Have you heard the metaphor, like all there is ocean and then there's waves?
Yeah. Yeah, and the experience of the me is being a wave trying to become the ocean.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that metaphor?
Yeah, yep. No.
Why not?
Jim, has the way you've talked about this changed over the years?
What's that?
Has the way you've talked about this message changed over the years?
Yeah.
How?
Well, basically, a lot of words aren't being used that were misleading, like anarchy, which I still love that word, but it tends to create a certain reaction that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Jim, it really does like start to seem obvious what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like they're just feelings and thoughts.
Yeah.
It feels like the biggest hang up for at least my mind is the seeing that's happening here is not the same as the seeing that's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because that thing that has the experience of being a something, and being a something, it has a position, as opposed to what it assumes is another something with another position. But in actuality, it's just nothing seeing.
But it seems
Doesn't have a position. Yeah, for the individual. Yeah, well, apparently. There's just nothing appearing as multiple bodies, multiple seeings.